Hi, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Public Affairs. I'm your host. My name is John Peterson. Today, we're talking with the mayor of Marion, Mr. Scott Schertzer. We're looking forward to this discussion here because there's a lot of things that we've been talking here before we began to film here that I think you're going to be very interested in some of these subjects here. So, thank you for joining us, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you doing this public affairs show. So we were talking about some of the topics. We have a lot of infrastructure projects planned for 2022, and I'll let you start us off.
Well, good. Here it is. You know, you look outside, you see a lot of white, a lot of snow. And I'm assuming that that's going to be, I know the city takes care of the snow and the ice, but what can you fill us in on from your perspective on snow and ice season and how you address that?
Well, that's a good question. I'd like to tell the viewers right now that this is the last snow and ice that we're going to have until spring gets here, but I think we both know that that's not going to be the case. We are going to have multiple snow and ice events. Hopefully they won't be very severe. We've had a couple mild winters the past couple winters. We are prepared for this snow and ice. It hit us on a Sunday night, and unfortunately the next day was Martin Luther King Day, so we didn't really have a lot of staff on hand. But what we do in the winter months, starting in about mid-December, January, February, March, and then we start to wrap it up, is we actually have a first, second, and third shift starting at 11 p.m. on Sunday night and then stopping at 11 p.m. on Friday night. So we're working around the clock on Sunday night through Friday night for these types of events when they do occur. Right now, we have about 6 big trucks. Those are those double axle trucks with plows and able to spread salt on them. We have 2 medium-sized trucks, call them like a half-ton truck, that have a snow plow and can handle spreading some salt. And then we have 4 pickup trucks that have snow blades only, and we don't have salt spreaders on all of our pickup trucks. So obviously that we can have up to 12 trucks out on the road dealing with a snow and ice issue like we did just the other night. Now, sometimes manpower becomes an issue, and unfortunately, with the pandemic still raging all around our country, here in Ohio, and even right here in our hometown of Marion, we do come up short on some of those shifts. But we want to keep our workforce healthy, and we want to keep them out removing the snow and ice. I talked to our street superintendent, Scott Kurz, before I came on the air today. We had plenty of salt before the storm. We still have a good supply of salt, but what he does is he orders more salt after we have a snow or ice event like this, so we're not waiting until we have depleted our complete salt supply before it gets here. Because sometimes there can be a supply chain issue with our salt as well. That's nothing new, and you may have heard about the supply chain problems that we've been having in this country. It's always been a problem of getting salt because everybody in Ohio needs salt at the same time, and most of our salt comes from Lake Erie, and we need to find the suppliers to get it down to us. We purchase our salt in bulk through the Ohio Department of Transportation, so we know it's there. It's just sometimes a matter of getting it to us. But right now, we're in good shape.
Well, the most interesting thing that you said there that really struck me, I mean, I already knew this, but I know how many years we've been digging underneath the Lake Erie, like quite a ways down. It amazes me that there's that much salt. We've been digging on it since I've been an adult, at least, and it just amazes me how much there's down there. So anyhow, thank you. Going on to the next subject here, we have talked many times on the subject of sewer projects. I know you have said before there's sewer projects in the future for us here, but specifically, what are they, and help us understand the value of them.
Well, this year's sewer projects are already set in place. We are going to do 4 sewer projects this year. And when we do a sewer project, keep in mind, we're talking about sanitary, which is where you flush your toilet, storm, which is the rainwater, and we also do what we call a complete street. We'll come in and we'll replace lateral connections to your house, not your lateral, but the lateral connection. We offer a check valve when we do these sewer projects. So if you're a homeowner, I would highly advise you to take up the opportunity to get a check valve put on your sewer lateral. It's at no cost to you now while we're doing these sewer projects. Down the road, it may become a cost to you as a home or a property owner. But we also do the complete streets. If we tear up your driveway approach, we'll fix it. Sidewalks get fixed, curbs and gutters get fixed. So for this year's sewer projects, we have a big one on George Street, which will take quite a while. Boone Avenue is another one. Barnhart Street and South Main Street. Now, 2 of those sewer projects will get started as soon as the weather breaks, and then 2 of them will get started after July the 1st, because that's the state's fiscal year, and those 2 projects rely on some state grants to help finance the construction of those sewer projects. So those are our 4 sewer projects planned for 2022. They will be done all year long, and hopefully they will be completed by the end of 2022. But there's always that caution out there that some of these projects are really big and it may overlap calendar years.
Wow. I'm just glad because I live in this community. I'm just glad that the administration, larger, obviously county commissioners as well, but are paying attention to infrastructure, because that benefits everybody. Continuing on here, while we're talking about sewer projects as part of infrastructure, I know there's a larger national infrastructure bill. How does that national infrastructure bill affect us?
Well, yes, we have heard a lot about the National Infrastructure Bill that was passed last fall. We've been kind of waiting on the guidelines to matriculate down to the local governments. We believe that we're going to be well positioned in these competitive grants to make application for sewer projects. And because that we have planned out sewer projects for the next 5 and 10 years, we're going to be able to apply for sewer projects for 2023, 24, and maybe beyond. But we're looking at anywhere between 8 to 10 additional sewer projects, just like the ones that I just mentioned. They're complete sewer projects doing everything in the street and in the city's right of way. And we're hopeful that we can tap those millions of dollars, and actually the overall bill was billions of dollars, but that'll be siphoned off and given to the state, and then we'll figure out how we make application for future sewer projects, because we have that long-term control plan. That's how we know which sewer projects that we do next from year to year to year. It just becomes a timing and a money issue. And also, are there enough people out there to do these kind of major sewer projects?
Wise use of money.
Well, we certainly hope so, and we believe so. Thank you.
Yes. Going on to part of that subject is wastewater renovation. I know there's been a lot of work being done, has been done in our municipality here relative to wastewater treatment and renovation. Help us understand what that means for us.
Sure. The last 2 topics in this one all kind of go hand in hand. It'll help resolve the basement flooding issues that we have in many of our older neighborhoods and some of our newer neighborhoods as well. It'll help with the flooding that we have on certain streets, like Columbia Street floods almost every time we get a major rain event. So what we did, and this was approved by the Ohio EPA, they wanted us to start first with our wastewater treatment plant. Now, we have a system of pipes that take in all the sanitary and storm water throughout the city of Marion. We have 2 main lines that go westbound out to our wastewater treatment plant, and then the wastewater is treated, and then it goes back into the rivers and streams of the state of Ohio. And so what we needed to do first was expand the capacities of our wastewater treatment plant. We've doubled that capacity under this multi-million-dollar infrastructure improvement at the sewer plant at the west end of town. So we believe now that we can take on more capacity when we have major rain events, and that gets it out of the system or out of the city much quicker. So now we need to begin to replace the sewer infrastructure inside the city now that we've built that capacity at our plant itself. So these all go hand in hand in trying to solve the problem that this community has been plagued with for decades now, which is basement flooding and street flooding in our community. And this is, again, a long-term controlled plan. It's been around for over a decade now. So we've been planning these projects and doing these projects every year as a part of this plan.
You just pointed out something that kind of lit up a light in my brain here, and that is the sewer projects and the sewer so-called gray water or clean water is one, and then the sanitary or toilet waste water is another. But both of those are handled by wastewater treatment.
They are. We have some areas of the city where the storm water empties directly into, say, the Kukwa ditch, the Goose Creek ditch. We have ditches that come out of the city, but much of the rain that falls in the city goes into the system and is treated at the wastewater treatment plant. Some is and some isn't.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you. So the next subject has to do with downtown overpasses. They've been up and they've been standing there for quite a while. They're concrete and they would tend to degrade. I'm assuming that given that it's a state route on a lot of them, some of them at least, and I don't know whose responsibility that is. Is somebody watching this stuff? How, in what shape are they in? I know there's a lot of questions here, but it has to do with the maintenance of our downtown overpasses.
Well, you're on the right track. The first question is whose responsibility are the two overpasses on State Street and Prospect Street? And again, because they're state routes, because they're considered bridges, it's the Ohio Department of Transportation's responsibility to maintain those. Now, since I've been in public office as a city councilman and as a mayor, those overpasses have been renovated twice since I've been in office.
Wow.
Now for the third time, they're going to get that third renovation sometime this year in 2022. And this is going to be the most comprehensive renovation that those overpasses have ever had since they were built in the late 1960s. I was born in the late 1960s. So those overpasses were brand new and I was just an infant. So it is time for the Ohio Department of Transportation to get in here and do a comprehensive overhaul of those two overpasses because they are main arteries when it comes to going northbound and southbound. One of them's northbound one way, one of them's southbound one way. So we all rely upon those overpasses to be open, safe, and secure for transportation needs in our community. And they're going to get done this year. It's an ODOT project, as I said, so it hasn't been bid out yet, so we don't know exactly when they're going to do it, but probably sometime over the summer, which may actually run into the time of the Popcorn Festival. Those overpasses will be completely closed. What we don't know yet is will they do one and then transition and do the other one. But once they start on them, they will be completely closed until the renovation is completed. But we're just grateful that a comprehensive renovation of those overpasses are going to get done this year in 2022.
A lot of the things we've been talking about here have to do with infrastructure, and it's interesting to me as to how important that subject is and how widespread its effect is. So the next subject here has to do with something very similar, and that has to do with resurfacing our streets. I know there's a plan or a methodology by which you determine where you spend the effort and the time and the money on resurfacing the streets, but what about the 2022 program to do street resurfacing in Marion?
Yeah, we're actually looking at probably one of the biggest street resurfacing projects that we have ever done since I've been in office. Now, this is a combination of street resurfacing that the city is responsible for, and also what ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation, is responsible for. So we're looking at anywhere between $2.5 to $3 million in total of street resurfacing. About $1 million plus of that will be the city's responsibility. So those will be our residential streets that we'll be doing. We do this every year. We do it first based on what's the need, when was it paved last, what's the traffic, and what's the condition of the street. And it's done through various means of paying for it. We have that permissive auto tax, which is that little sticker on the back of your car on your license plates. A portion of that money goes directly to street resurfacing for the city of Marion. And then the Ohio Department of Transportation, they use the gasoline tax that we all pay at the pump every time we fill up our tanks and our vehicles. So we're looking at a major resurfacing program. That's just taking off the top layer. That's not rebuilding the base of the street, maybe some base replacements or repairs here and there. But this is a resurfacing project. That usually gets started in late summer, early fall, the city's portion. The state could be working on theirs as soon as the weather breaks and things warm up in the late spring of this year.
Wow, very good. We have a very large number of parks in Marion, and we're talking about maintaining various and sundry things. We talked about overpasses, maintaining those. What's the effort to maintain there's obviously got to be projects planned to maintain those parks, because you can just go out and see them and they're well maintained. Some of them are very well maintained. Any park projects?
Yeah, actually, we're looking at 3 parks doing some renovation this year. Now, most of these projects are going to be contingent upon grants that we've applied for. For example, the first one is Founders Park. It's downtown Marion at the corner of Main Street and Church Street. Mm-hmm. We've been looking for ways to build that park. Right now, it's basically just a green space that we use in downtown Marion. It's Founders Park. So we've applied for a grant through regional planning, and we're going to take legislative action on that grant because it requires city council to pass an ordinance or a resolution to support us going after this grant. But this is a grant that we should know about by the spring of this year and have to have that project completed by sometime in 2023. So that's a project that'll take some time. The next park is Kaufman Dog Park, which is actually located inside one of our existing parks, and that's Kennedy Park out on 309 East, or Harding Highway East, as they sometimes refer to it. And that is being done by the leadership class of the Chamber of Commerce. They have been on a 2-year fundraising campaign to raise enough revenue to make some improvements to Kaufman Dog Park, which was originally created by a philanthropic Marion resident who was a dog lover, and we needed a dog park, and he helped set the foundation to that dog park. The second park is Lincoln Park, arguably our biggest park, maybe not in land mass, but as far as the amenities we have, we've got the skateboard park there, which was also a donation from Mr. Kaufman years ago. We've got the aquatic center there, and then we've got all those baseball complexes. So this is a state capital grant that we have applied for to continue the renovations of the baseball stadium and do some work on the field, on Lincoln Field in Lincoln Park. So we're excited about this. If we get these grants, there's going to be a lot of park work done this year as well.
Very good. And again, I just want to capitalize on what I said earlier. When I go around and frequent these parks, I pay attention to the fact that they're well maintained, they're clean, they're orderly. Every once in a while there's some renewal project going on. So I'm just grateful to be able to talk to you about that subject, because and to pass along as a citizen of the community, whatever. that they are well maintained. Thank you for that.
Well, and we just made a major investment in McKinley Park just this year with the new project playground.
Yes.
That came out of a Chamber of Commerce leadership class project as well.
Yeah.
So we're grateful to those class projects who often adopt the parks in the Marion community as their class project.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, people do notice.
Mhm.
On to city jobs. I know there's got to be some, but there's a lot of hiring signs out there. You've got jobs that perhaps you could have filled.
Yeah, right now the economy is very strong nationally, statewide, and even here in Marion County, Marion City. The unemployment rate was below, I think, 4% the last time I looked for the county of Marion, and there's still lots of jobs available out there. The city of Marion is still taking applications for a zoning compliance officer. We're still in need of somebody that understands zoning and compliance of the city's code when it comes to junk cars and trash in yards and weeds and grass and things of that nature. We have Casey Thomas from the Marion City Police Department who is back on the job for us doing that. We had to pull him off and put him on the street as a police officer. We're now getting a couple of our officers out of the academy, so they're going to be hitting the city streets any day now and doing their field training with a qualified police officer. So we're still taking applications for the Marion City Police Department as well. But remember, you have to have certain qualifications to fill out that application, would get you graded higher on the scale to allow an interview to take place. We're also accepting applications for lifeguards, believe it or not. I know it's the end of January or the middle of January right now, but here in about 6 months, we're going to open up the Marion Aquatic Center, and last year we had a shortage of lifeguards, which did not allow us to keep the pool open as much as we wanted to. So we need 20 to 25, even up to 30 qualified, certified lifeguards. So any young people that are age 16 to 25 will take. Think about now of getting your certification or your license to become a certified lifeguard at the Marion Aquatic Center. And we're also accepting clerk applications right now. The clerks are kind of the clerical workers in city government. We have them in city utility billing. We have some on the third floor in the auditor's office. We even have a couple clerks out at the wastewater treatment plant. So we're accepting applications for clerks for the city of Marion also right now as we speak.
Very good. I'm very glad to hear that the economy locally is strong. I'm very glad to hear that. There's a lot of discussion going on amongst folks in the community here relative to the subject of city charter. And I understand that this apparently is a very important subject, or otherwise a lot of people wouldn't be talking about it. Can you help us understand what that subject is about?
Well, first of all, let me just say, when it comes to talking about a city charter, it's a very complex issue, and I am still learning. I know a great deal about city charters, but I haven't learned everything yet. So I'm hoping that this is a reoccurring topic that we can start talking about this month, but we can continue our discussion on a city charter in February, March, April, and maybe even beyond, because it is a long process to transition from the kind of government we are today in Marion City to the charter form of government that we might want to transition over to. The first and most important thing to know is what kind of government are we right now? And we've touched on this before with our viewers. We're what we're called a statutory government. So that means the state constitution and the Ohio Revised Code create Marion City government. It creates a strong mayor that serves for 4 years. There's no term limits. A law director, a city auditor, a city treasurer, and 9 members of city council based upon our population who serve for 2 years with no term limits, and then a council president is also elected. So all those elected officials, how we're paid, how often we run, what our duties and responsibilities are really given to us by the Ohio Constitution and the Ohio Revised Code. So if we want to deviate from that form of government, we can create what is called a charter, or almost like a constitution. So we can set our own guidelines. Do you want city council to have term limits? Do you want city council to serve for 4 years as opposed to 2 years? Same thing with the mayor, the law director, the city auditor, and the city treasurer. All those things can be changed in a city charter, along with term limits, along with qualifications on those elected positions. So that's the biggest difference between the two, and it's incumbent upon every city resident to pay attention to this process as we go through it, because it starts with city council. City council can decide whether to put this initiative on the ballot. And how does that process work? Well, we're learning that right now. We're going to have a guest speaker come to city council and begin to educate us all in the details of what it would mean to go from statutory to charter. The first thing that we all should be doing is asking this very simple question. What problem are we trying to solve? Is there a problem with what we have now that we can solve in a city charter? Are we thinking emotionally, or are we thinking with our brains? Because when you get emotional on an issue like this, you might end up with a charter that you don't really like compared to what we have now. So this should be a slow, methodical process with multiple guest speakers coming to city council and educating themselves on how to become a charter if that's what they want to do. It'll take 2 votes by the voters. First vote is, do you want to go to a charter? Yes or no. The second vote is, what's the charter look like? That constitution or that charter needs to be written by 15 electors, and they only have a period of time to write that charter and present it to the voters, and then the voters get to decide, I want a charter, I don't want a charter. As mayor of the city of Marion, I don't know what the charter would look like, and that's kind of the scary thing right now, is we don't know what a charter could be, but we do know what we have now. What problems are we trying to solve through a city charter? Are we doing it with emotions, or are we doing it with our brains?
Yeah. And the other thing that is, the 2 things that I'm struck by. Number one, you touched on it already. We, the electorate, have got to understand this subject, because we're going to have to vote. I mean, we may have to vote on this, and we've got to use our brains and think logically, and that means that we have got to be informed in order that we can vote, rationally, whatever, with knowledge. And the second thing is those electors that write this, if that goes that way, are they elected?
They are elected by the people. That's also a part of the first vote.
Okay, all right. That's a safeguard. Okay. Well, here we have come to the end of my list here, and you've answered them all, and I'm grateful to that. I'm grateful to you for coming by and helping us understand some of these things, and thank you very much for coming. And thank you also, folks. This program is crafted to serve your needs, and we ask these questions so that you can all be informed, and all of us will be informed at the same time. So thank you for joining us. I am your host. My name is John Peterson.